Hello, and welcome to another episode of Not D&D, which is brought to you by EN World Live. I'm your host, Jessica, and this week I am joined by two little mice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us here.
Of course. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Two Little Mice?
Okay, I'll start. I am Rico, and I am one of the two co-owners of Two Little Mice. Actually, we are three now. It's me and Simone that's here with us, and Daniela, and she's our lead artist for all our projects. Basically, we are three Italian guys who make role-playing games among other artistic stuff. And we had a pretty strange journey, the three of us together. Now we are here making games.
Amazing. Absolutely love to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am Simone. I am one of the other two owner of Two Little Mice, together with Rico and Daniela. And what to say? We are working together for the past 5 years now.
Yeah.
Yes, something like this. It's been 5 years since we started this journey into this role-playing game world, and it's been pretty amazing. I have to tell. It's been a fantastic journey till now.
Amazing. Well, that's so great. I'm so excited to have you on because this week we're going to be talking about Household, which has been voted on the EM World Forums as one of the top 10 most anticipated role-playing games for 2023. So congratulations to that. And you had a really successful Kickstarter. Like it was just shy of like $500,000 that was generated in the middle of June of last year. So a lot of people really excited about this game and really excited to hear about it. So if you're one of those people, if you're watching live and you have any questions, please put it in the chat and I will ask the questions and we'll answer them live. So if you have any questions about anything we're talking, just feel free to jump in and join in. We're all just a bunch of nerds chatting about games, and you probably are too. That's why you're watching, so feel free to join in. But yeah, so before we start talking about Household, I'd love to talk about your background and history with games, with role-playing games. So Rico, do you remember the first role-playing game you ever played?
The first one for me, I think, was Cyberpunk 2020.
Oh, cool.
Cyberpunk, and I think it's still one of the greatest inspirations for us, at least in terms of how the books were written. And I remember clearly it was so fun just reading the books, and the first edition of Cyberpunk was a kind of RPG where the author spoke directly to you, like, okay, you want to do that, just do that. It was very, it's very familiar, very easygoing, and that's something that we try to put in our games, to have an engaging, narrator that kind of helps you understand what you're going to do.
Definitely. I did notice that in Household, so I'm glad you said, because I flicked through the PDF, which is beautiful, by the way, if you haven't got a copy yourself, and I noticed that there. So you can, I guess the same question to you as well, Simon. What would you say?
I think I started playing role-playing games very late in my life, and I think I started with Pathfinder first edition.
Okay.
Which was a huge hit in my hometown.
Oh yeah.
As Rico knows well, it's now he lives there. Like everyone got crazy about Pathfinder first edition, and yes, I was introduced by the game by a bunch of friends who played a game that they said was Pathfinder first edition, but had like some rules coming from nowhere, so it was pretty much our own game.
Yeah, a kind of a homebrew hacked edition of it. Yeah. Sounds good. That's quite interesting that neither of you had Dungeons and Dragons as your main. I think that's quite rare, because most people, Dungeons and Dragons is like their first game, so it's interesting that neither of you started there. So yeah, interesting to see.
Second one, but
yeah, but not the first.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're playing games, playing lots of different systems. How did you go from people who just played games to where you are now with two little mice with your company? What was that journey like 5 years ago, you said?
Yeah.
It
was I always say it was a strange journey because we both of us, the three of us, actually, we are all we come from artistic studies, different academies, and Simone is an actor, actually.
Okay.
I studied as director for theater. I studied in Venice. So we met doing theater and doing some video stuff, and it's hard to tell the story because basically I've known the actual wife of Simone's wife, for the last like 20 years, and we had played a lot of games, a lot of stuff, and we actually met me and Simone playing for the first time together with this girl that now she's now his wife, and we had just one session of an Italian game that's called Anime Sangue. That's basically a urban fantasy Italian games. And after that, we decided to make a TV series, like a web series out of the game. So that's actually the mice started.
We were very young and pretty reckless at the time. We had this crazy idea.
Yeah, because
it was in 2015. So yes, 7 years ago, I think.
And I mean, it actually worked. That's the crazy part, because we just met. I was a director, he was an actor. We had a bunch of friends. We decided, okay, let's try to make a pilot. Let's make something. So we went to the publisher of this game, and we asked for permission, of course, and we made the first episode. And it was something pretty big here in Italy, at least. And we made our first Kickstarter, which was like, I think, 50,000 euros, 15. So very, very small Kickstarter campaign for a TV series. And then we proceeded to make this series. And now it's actually in streaming on Amazon Prime Video.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
It actually exists. It's pretty bad. And but the weird thing is that we started doing this TV series on an Italian role-playing game. And then through that, we started going to convention and meeting people. And then one day on a set, we were just, sharing idea for our campaigns. And Household was one of these ideas. Okay. And we were talking with the publisher of this game, and it was like, okay, let's do it. It's a cool idea. So it's a very random story. I think it's the way we started. But and Household won best role-playing game of the year in Italy that same year, and we still didn't thought about it as a career. Like it was something that we did on the side, and then we were about to make a TV series for the Italian television. We right before the pandemic, and we basically lost our job because of the pandemic, because you couldn't make a set anymore during the COVID pandemic, and so we decided to make a second game that was Broken Compass, that went really well. Really well on Kickstarter, and now that's our job.
Great. And Broken Compass won some Emmy awards as well, so critically acclaimed as well. So that's such an interesting story. I think you are the first guests I've had on that said we made a film company, like a TV show, and then just ended up doing role-playing games. I think that's one of the most unique guest stories I've had. So thank you very much. So if you're watching this and wondering how to get into making games, I guess start a TV production company,
buy a camera, and
Yeah, obviously the classic way.
that unique period of despair during a production. You have a lot of ideas, just an excuse to meet with your friends and play some role-playing games, which is
exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
well, I think the pandemic did a lot for role-playing games.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people played for the first time, and a lot of people started companies as well, it seems. But so that leads us on really nicely. Let's get into talking about Household. So, how would you describe Household to somebody that's never heard of it before?
Household is a role-playing game set in an abandoned house, and the players takes the role of littlings, which are the very small creature, humanoid creature, inspired by the little folk, the legend of the little folk. So we have several different folk living inside this really big empty house, abandoned house, so without any human involved. And the peculiar things of this setting is that these littlings has divided and conquered the house, and each room is a nation, and this nation are heavily inspired by 19th century Europe and not so Europe and world, but mainly Europe. So we have these peculiar, wonderful cultures. Full of etiquette, very, very 19th century, very a lot of manners, but everything is so small. So you ride mice, and you have tiny pet bumblebees with you when you go to the ball with the with the noble and so on. And it's a setting which revolves heavily on the cultural and social part of the role play. So
yeah, I always like to describe Household as something between Game of Thrones and Bridgerton. That's something there in the middle, if that makes sense.
There is a middle. There is a.
What a culture clash. I hadn't perceived it in that way, but it makes sense. It makes sense when you hear about all the social kind of etiquette and the society, because all the different characters you're playing are, like you say, a part of a big kind of social circle, and there's like structures and almost social politics and rules. So the game, I think, and as somebody says, and there are giant spiders in the game as well. So yes, as we have seen in the artwork here, there are giant spiders that you fight as well, which would be terrifying, because I think some people are scared of spiders at the size we are now. So I imagine if you are this big, it's worse. Yeah. Fantastic. So the game, so that's kind of the setting. And as I said, you had the Kickstarter came out in kind of June. The PDF came out in December for the first issue, which I kind of had a look at. And is it kind of summertime people can get their hands on a physical copy, or?
Yeah, it's,
we hope so. Yes, we are working to deliver to the bakers at least by the end of the summer. I am always very cautious when speaking about,
of course, because
but we are working towards it. And so after the bakers will get receipt in their hands, we planned on going in retail, both in Europe and in the US.
Perfect.
Basically, all the books, the core book and 2 expansions that were in the Kickstarter as well.
Okay, great. Well, talking about the book now and kind of the characters you're playing, I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. So, what sort of characters are you playing when you play the game?
Okay, so when you make your character in Household, you first have to choose a folk, one of the 4 little folk. So basically, you can play as a fairy. That's beautiful winged little folks, and or you can play as a boggart, and boggart was some kind of the servant of the house, or those household spirits that used to help the humans when they still inhabited the house. And the boggarts are typically very big and very strong and very honest. And then you have the Slua, which are inspired by the now famous Wild Hunt. That's basically this horde of spirit. And the Slua represents the the strangers of the house, the one who arrives the last, and are very different from one another. Some of them have horns, like little antennas. Some are very big, some are very small. And then you have the sprites, and the sprites are basically elemental littlings. So littlings who came out of the spark, who came out of the drain, which is the household water, or who came out of the draft, which is basically the household wind.
Sure.
Also, you have to choose your profession other than your book. So you don't have very strict classes, but you have this list of profession that are intended to help you build your character, because you are not very it's not those kind of games when you choose a folk or a species, and you have some stuff, and then you choose your class and you are binded to your class. But it's really all tools that you use to make your character, and then you can further customize it. But basically the six profession of the games are soldier. So you are part of one of the army, and we are talking Napoleonic kind of armies, or what is
rifles and bayonets and so on.
Yeah, kind of stuff from Anna Karenina. So we are talking, soldier in beautiful uniform attending to balls, but also fighting on different fronts. And we have the hunters. And to be a hunter in household is a very dangerous profession, because everything is bigger than you. Everything. You are at the bottom of the chain. We have animal handlers. That's breeder of bumblebees or mouse or snails, geckos, and beetles.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly cute to me, all of those things. So I just saw that. It's like, you can have a pet bumblebee. And I was like, yes, okay, great.
I must admit, the pet bumblebee sold an incredible number of copies, at least here in Italy. The first time we show the cons with the first books, everybody loved the fact that you may have this pet bumblebee who can be very cute with the ribbons, but can also be like bumblebees in household, fly at, I don't know, Mach 3. So I like living weapons. Very, very scary, but also very cute.
Amazing how many people were, just waiting to have a pet bumblebee. We didn't expect that.
I didn't know I needed it either until I saw it, and I was like, yes, I didn't know I was missing this from my life.
We had several cosplayers in last years that made this huge plush bumblebee. Plushes bumblebee. They are adorable.
Amazing.
And that's usually where people stop. Like, you can be a hunter, you can be a bumblebee handler, and that's they don't want to know that. But you can also play as a criminal, or a scholar. Of course, there are many university and institution inside the house, and you can play as a duelist. And duelists are this last vestige of the ancient times. So they are there's only a few of them left.
Very specialist.
And you make a character, and you live inside the house during 5 years of time, because household has a chronological setting. So as
Mm-hmm.
you play, you are experiencing 5 years inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see on the sheet, you can see the memories are divided into chapter, and chapters are both your, let's say, your level. So you advance and you gain new skills and new moves when you go to the next chapter. But also every chapter represents a year inside the house. So you basically grow up with your character, and in the books you will find several historical events that will change how the setting is as you play it. Yeah.
Amazing. And also the so on the character sheet that we're seeing here, so for each kind of area of the skills, like we have society, academia, war, street, they have different kind of card symbols on, like the heart, the clubs, and things like that. And I believe that's related to the awesome dice that you have as well. So can we talk about how dice works in this? Because it is a D6 dice pool system, but it's slightly different from other ones I've kind of seen before. So if you could talk through that.
Yeah. Basically, in Household, you play, you have your action or reaction rolls using a small pool of D6s, from a very minimum of 2 to a maximum, in rare cases, of 9 dice. And you hope to achieve some combination. So 2 of a kind, a 3 of a kind, a 4 of a kind, and so on. And every difficulties in the game is linked at one of these combinations. So you have the basic action, the basic, which is 2 of a kind, the critical, which is a 3 of a kind, extreme, it's a 4 of a kind, and so on. And everything is linked to this particular way, with the added bonuses, which is our favorite part of the system, that you may reroll every single throw. You may reroll every dice that do not score something, that is not part of a 2, a 3, or a 4 of a kind. You can reroll it, hoping to achieve more successes. But if you do not achieve more, you may lose some of your first results. So it has this little gambling mood in every single throw that at the table is very, very, very enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's our favorite part. Every single time you try to take an action, you may succeed or not, but you may succeed a lot or succeed. Yeah. So you are always interested in doing something more. Okay, I convinced him, but if I can turn my 2 of a kind in a 3 of a kind, maybe I'll get some more information out of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a push your luck gambling, and that's kind of like, because their cards looking like symbols, it's kind of like, poker or something like that. So you can play the game with just your normal D6, but you do have some very pretty custom dice, which I believe you have in your very hands that exist.
This is for the first time ever. We just received our first sample. I don't know.
Oh, fantastic.
They are just 6-sided dice with 6 different symbols and in 6 different colors, just to help every player to spot immediately 2 of a kind and so on. We just made this kind of dice, but of course a player is free to use his normal dice and to have 3 of a kind of 4, which is hard to tell, but very easy to play.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you can pick up the custom dice with the Kickstarter and with the pre-order on backer kits. So that's still open at the moment. I presume, as we said, so if when you're talking about this you think it sounds really interesting, if you go to the Back Kit Pledge Manager, and the links will be in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast, so you can check that out there and pick it up. So don't worry, you haven't missed out. It'll be coming this summer, but you haven't missed it. Don't worry, you can still get your copy. So talking a little bit more about kind of the game. So we have these awesome characters that we're making. We've seen the character sheets. We have the system with the D6 combining pairs and things like that. But there's a lot of things I saw on the character sheet, like kind of stress and conditions and moves. So could you tell us a little bit more about the system and the mechanics for those that aren't familiar?
Okay, let's go through the character sheets, which I think it's always the best. The first thing is something that we usually do in our games. We also did this with Broken Compass, is that we divide skills under different fields. We call them fields.
Sure.
You'll find society linked with the hearts, and academia with diamonds, and war with clubs, and street with spades. And those fields represents how much you are comfortable within a certain field. So basically, war represent how much you are comfortable when you have to impose on others, or do something very physical, or show your strength, but also when it comes to the war, so the military settings, as well as street, for example, means how comfortable you are in a scenario when the environment is hostile to you. So basically, when you are in the sketchiest part of a town, or when you are in the wild, in these forests of mushrooms that you will find across the house. Under each of these fields you find a different skill, but you can of course mix and match. So you can roll under different fields, and you basically roll a number of dice equal to your suits in a single field, and in the single chosen skill. And you have two kind of rolls. What we call action rolls is when you decide what to do, and reaction rolls. The reaction rolls are when the narrator tells you what to roll. Then we find our traits and moves. Basically, when you advance through the chapter, you gain traits and moves. And traits, most often than not, allow you to reroll the dice without the risk of losing some of your successes. So since you will want to reroll your dice as much as possible, you'll want to rely on these traits. So you have traits like shadow that allow you to reroll or your stealth rolls, or you have traits like librarian, which allows you to reroll any role which involves the books in any form. And then we have the moves, and moves are slightly different because moves are something that you perform automatically, and you can just use your move once per session. And moves are like
something really cool that you can do, I guess.
And they are very you can add something to the story. So a move can be, there's one criminal move that's called gossip, that allows you to start a rumor.
I heard the rumor. No, it's the English name. Sorry.
The English name is I heard the rumor. That's allow you to you can ask for an information. You can just make up an information on the go, or you can start a rumor about someone. You have friend in high places, which is a moves that gain you access to a certain party. And you also have like soldier moves, which allows you to fight in a better way. And each move is linked to one or two aces of the cards. And these are special resources that you gain for role playing in a certain way, and you can spend them to perform a move a second time in the same session. And then we have the decorum, which is one of our favorite feature of the game. Decorum means how well dressed you are.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so this is the Bridgerton element of the game you were saying.
Yes.
Great.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's very important because you are not going to be allowed in certain places or events if you are not dressed properly.
Of course.
It's very easy. The higher your decorum is, the easier it is to lose decorum, and the lower your decorum is, the harder it is, to increase your decorum level. It's really expensive to be elegant or even pompous.
Yeah.
And then
so
we have.
So you can't spend all your money on a bumblebee, then you actually have to keep some back for a nice hat or something. For example, a nice hat. I don't know. Yeah.
And stress and conditions are basically your current conditions. Or stress is a kind of resource that you don't necessarily have to role play, but basically sometimes when you have a failure which will involve an injury or even death, or when simply it's not very interesting to fail at something, like you are hiding and you should be discovered, and then that's not that's interesting for the game in that moment. The narrator can give you stress as a result of a failure, and once you feel all your stress, you are risking to go out of the scene, so you are risking to
overstressed in the game, and you risk leaving
leaving the game, which can mean a lot of different.
Oh wow, I think it's in English.
Oh, fair enough. So talking a little bit, well, somebody says nothing beats a nice spider's silk vest. Exactly. So could we talk a little bit about kind of equipment and wealth in the game and how that works? Because clearly, like you say, it has an important role kind of mechanically and in terms of the role play.
Yeah. So basically, the equipment in Household is very simple because each and every item you have maybe may help you in certain situation, or maybe of hindrance in other situation. I hope I'm telling it correctly in English. Sorry.
Yes, yeah, you are. A help or a hindrance.
Yes.
With the capital H. So these are two game terms, help and hindrance.
So you have a lot of different types of equipment. You've got a lot of different weapons, which are very funny because they are basically the replicas of household object. So you don't have a sword, but you have a half scissor, and you have needles, and you have pins, and you have lancetas, which are clock arms. You have a lot of this different type of weapon, but you have other as important equipment like in clothes, elegant clothes that are very useful in certain situations, and you may have a lot of different items, and also there is a section of the equipment talking about what we call the gadgets. These are these like prototypes items, which are nearly not steampunk yet, but a little bit ahead of time than your usual settings. So you have this strange item that you can make up as you go if you are a certain type of moves or whatever, or if you have a really good engineer. And as much as important, you have wealth, which is divided in two different areas. There are your wealth, how much money you have in your life, what can you do, when where can you sleep, where can you eat, where you usually sleep or eat. So if
There's
you
some
are
kind of
poor,
passive
probably
wealth.
yes, your passive wealth and your
Okay, yeah.
active wealth. How much money you have on you to spend on extras that you encounter during the game. So you have a phase in which, okay, I'm well off, so I know I can afford this particular hotel, I don't know, this particular meal on these carriages. But if this is something I cannot afford, usually I need to spend my money, which is my extra money I have on me,
Yeah.
and I can use them to acquire some items, or I don't know, to bribe someone. Maybe someone may try to steal them from me, etc. And during the game, of course, you can increase or decrease your passive wealth as much as your pocket money.
We tend to, when we make our games, we tend to think in a cinematographical, kind of mind. And
Yeah.
when you write for cinema, there is one word that always comes up, that's interesting. If something is interesting, it's of interest. And for example, rarely, of course, you will see someone in a movie go to the bathroom. But if they go to the bathroom, then you know that something is going to happen,
Yeah.
because you are only following them to the bathroom if that's interesting.
Yeah.
So we always have this kind of two dynamics, like we have the stress and the condition, the passive wealth and the money. Like normally, when something is not important, it's not interesting, we want to give you some passive dynamics you can rely on. So you are poor, you cannot afford anything, you can, it's for you, you struggle to eat, that's something about the character. You're not have to count your monies. You want to bribe someone, that's another stuff, that's interesting. So let's see if you have the money. So that's why you have this small resource, then you can spend. You want to buy some clothes. Okay, you are doing well, or you are even rich. Okay, buy some clothes. I don't care as a narrator, but
Yeah.
it's the whole point. We have to go, these guys, to the party, and we have to have nice clothes, and they are expensive. Okay, let's count every single penny that we have and build the session around it. So that's mindset.
It's nice that you have both options, like you say, because sometimes it's not interesting to sit there and count how much have I spent on eating and doing this, and you're like, that's not the interesting part of the story. Another interesting part of the story I'd love to talk about is combat and fighting, because obviously you mentioned there's all these weapons that you can have that are really cool and interesting, and then we have some very interesting creatures to kind of fight against and have combat. So what does combat look like? I imagine it's quite cinematic and fun.
We think at combat as a scenario, like a combat scene, more than a fight. So at the end of the book, you will find a list of possible opponents, and these opponents are all intended as one big creature, or a small group of smaller creature. You will not find in this book like one soldier, two soldier, three soldier, four soldier, and but you will find soldiers, like a bunch of soldiers fighting you, and that's some kind. We usually say that's a stage. So, for example, you are showing us the rats, and which is a pretty hard opponent. And how would we fight the rat? Basically, we have to see who starts first. There are, of course, rules for initiative, but basically, who strikes first strikes first.
Sure.
So that's our rule of thumb. And let's say that we can attack first. We, of course, can play and do whatever we want, and among other action, we can directly attack the opponent. And to attack the opponent, we will have to choose the war field, and we can use whatever skill we like. So, for example, there is a structure behind the rat, I want to make the structure fall, I'm going to roll, craft under the war field, or I want just to take my half sister and directly attack the rat, I can, of course, roll for a fight plus war. And then after all of us did our turn, and we roll the dice, and we see, for example, the rat is a critical opponent, which means I will need a critical success to hit the rat, and a critical success, it's basically a trio of kind.
Yes.
So I need a trio of kind to hit the rat. And after all of us has done the action phase, then we go to the reaction phase. So every opponent has this kind of action list, this kind of chart, and you can roll a d6 and randomly determine the kind of reaction roll then the player will have to do. So, for example, you see the rat has 6 action, and you can either choose or determine them randomly, and then all the player have to react to that. And there are also some there's some stuff to make it more dynamic. For example, when you hit certain hit boxes, which are called the crucial boxes, these one squares with all the little spikes, then the opponent will perform a move, because as they have moved. So, for example, the rat has the tail whip. So if you fail a roll against the tail whip, you will be knocked down, and then you have to spend your turn. And also they have traits that make them harder to beat. For example, the rat has the trait filthy. So if you fail a reaction roll against a rat and don't score not even one small basic success, you become sick. And also, among the other action you can do, you can use one of your moves or your action to try and find the weak spot of your opponent. And that's one thing that we love about our fighting. You will have a different chart to determine your opponent weak spot. So it's very cool when you're playing that somebody maybe not be so good at fighting, because you have all the different professions. So you maybe have a scholar who is not able to fight very well. He can still be of help by looking for a weak spot and rolling on the charts and finding the weak spot, and then maybe you can use this weak spot. For example, the rat is injured, so if you hit on the on the injury, you have one more dice, or I don't know, there is a trap nearby, and you can make the rat go into the trap, and it's all determined randomly. So it's very wild.
Yeah, like I said, sounds cinematic and wild and chaotic, which I imagine life is like if you are a small little folk person trying to fight a giant rat. Because I myself would not want to fight a giant rat, or a normal sized rat even. So it must be more terrifying. So this all sounds really great, really fun. We've had a couple of questions come through. So someone's asking, we're obviously working on the books right now, but people have asked if you have any future plans for virtual tabletop platforms for Household or for Broken Compass.
No, at the moment there are no active partnership with virtual tabletops. I know there are a couple of fun that are making some fan-made tools, but it's not involved us directly, even because we do not understand absolutely anything about this stuff. So we hope we will get better in the future, but for now we stick to the books.
Okay, great. So something maybe for the future.
We do have a Discord bot. A bot for Discord that allows you to roll the dice and automatically gives you all the successes. So that's very cool. That's something very useful, because yeah, it's very helpful, and we will work with something for the virtual tabletop at some point, but we are I would say we are pretty far behind here in Italy on all the digital aspect of our game. So we firstly will have to find someone that we trust, to not only do this but to manage this in time, because
Of course.
it's
a whole thing. Yeah, no, I understand. As a publisher as well, yeah, it's a lot to manage and do.
Also because there's three of us, and one of us is the artist, and then there's me and Simone, and we are doing everything from the concept writing, the graphic layout and printing and sending. So it's
everything. I know how you feel as a small publisher. you just do all the things. It sounds very relatable to me. But yeah, we had another question as well. They said they love the changes that they've seen from the Broken Compass, and are there other games in the pipeline that will use the fortune system that you have planned?
We are working on several new projects that will share. Of course, we'll have an evolved version of our household system. As everybody who knows us knows well, we try to take I call it system, just me, probably our way of playing, our way in tossing dices. We try to get it further and further with each and every project. But the answer is easily yes. There will be, we hope, other project with the same core ideas than household. Because
we always like to remind that now we are not the owners of Broken Compass anymore, because Broken Compass was brought by Simon. We worked with Simon for a month, and when we took part from Simon, we took household with us, but we left Broken Compass with them. So we surely will continue using our signature system and evolving it, because as you can see, it's still moving, and it's always fun, because household was our first game. We did it 4 years ago in Italy, and then we made Broken Compass on household, based on household, and then this new edition of household is loosely based on Broken Compass, but it's building on
an evolution.
And we feel that the system hasn't expresses its own potential yet, because it's something very unique, that you can have not only the number of successes but different degree of successes, because you roll 6 dice, you have a pair and a 3 of a kind, and that's a basic success that you can use to do something that's a critical success, and that's not one greater success, and not like 9 small successes that are difficult to have a grasp of, but you have 2 or 3 successes usually, when you are lucky, of different degree, and that's something that we are really trying to understand ourselves, to basically get the best out of the system. So definitely we are going to make new iteration.
Great. And where's the best place for people to keep up to date with that if they want to hear about new stuff you're doing? Where can they find you online?
Unfortunately, still Facebook.
Unfortunately. Okay. Yeah.
But
there is a Discord channel. That are very active, and it's a fan hosted Discord channel, but we are very engaged with the community in there, and so we share each and every news on our Facebook.
You will find the bot for rolling dice, so it's cool if you want to play online to take a look at the server. And we are very active both on the Facebook group and the Discord server, so if you have any question, we are always there.
Great. Fantastic. So good places to go there. So Discord and Facebook, and of course you have your website too, Little Mice.
We have a website. You can send us an email. I think the email is on the website. So we try to answer each and every email, but as Rico said before, just we're doing our best every day.
Just two people.
But please be patient.
As we always say, there are things you can do, and I think you understand that there are things you can do in 3 that you cannot do in 300.
Yes.
So being a small company, I always feel that we have an advantage over bigger companies. That we are there and we have a connection.
Sure, definitely. And briefly, just for you as well, I wanted to talk about the art a bit as well, because the art is absolutely beautiful. And we've had someone ask if they can buy prints of the artwork from the game. Is that something you're looking to do in the future, or?
Probably yes. We have we usually do prints only at conventions. Because we like them framed, and we are afraid that if we ship them, they might be destroyed in the process. You ship. We also did an art book that I do not have here, only for a convention in Italy, but we probably are going to make something for an online store, because I see that there are a lot of people who are in love with Daniela's style, and it will be cool to share that. That's the art book.
Amazing! Yes.
Just to tease people.
Absolutely beautiful there. So yes, it sounds like there you go. Big shot of the photo there. Perfect. That's great to hear that there is the artwork book for that. And if you're listening to the podcast, you obviously can't see these images, but if you have a look on the website and the link, so you can check out the art, it's really worth looking at. It's absolutely gorgeous. And another question I wanted to put in as well is, if people are listening to this and they haven't tried it before and they wanted to kind of have a little preview or have a little look at the game system, what's the best way for them to get involved and have a first look at the game?
There is a quick start guide available on Drive-Thru.
Okay, great.
What you want, so it's free if you want it, and it's a very huge quick start. We're talking about nearly 100 pages.
100 pages.
Okay, wow.
With the basic rules, with an adventure ready to play, the rules to play it, and six pre-made characters for you to just sit with your friends and enjoy.
But we are going to have, because I noticed that we do not have an actual play in English, so we are going to fix that as soon as possible.
Yes, as soon as we finish writing.
So you finish writing it, you need to do all the printing, the logistics, just that little thing first. Okay, good. So you're not busy.
Yeah,
okay.
It's all fun and games.
Yeah. Great. So there's the quick start there. So if you want to have a little preview and have a little look and try it out, you can check that out there. It's on Drive-Thru RPG, and the links are in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about Household. So many people are very excited about the game. Like I said, one of the top 10 most anticipated games of the year. So thank you for coming on and sharing it with us. Before you go, I do ask everyone for any recommendations for role-playing games. But the rules are, it can't be Dungeons and Dragons, because the show's called Not D&D. And it can't be a game that you've made, because we've just spent an hour talking about your game. So, I don't know if you have any recommendations for other games for people.
I might be a little biased on this, but I always recommend Vulcania. And Vulcania is a steampunk RPG made by an Italian group of designers called Gear Games. That's it. Marvel, comic, cartoonish illustration. a huge lore, and it's also a game that entirely rely on the D12, which is something that I appreciate a lot. I love the D12, but I can never make it work into a game. But one day I will be. I will do it. But so take a look at Vulcania. They were on Kickstarter some month ago. I think the pre-order store is still open, and they are very cool guys.
Amazing, fantastic, thank you. Any other recommendations?
He stole my recommendation.
That was your right. Okay, so that is a new
he said another thing, so I was
you.
ready with Vulcania.
You had your book. You had the book in your hand, though, so you were really ready with that question. So we'll pretend it was you that said that.
Unfortunately,
okay.
I'm the one with
I think that Simona is always pushing for Alice is Missing, but I don't think that Alice is Missing needs any more pushing from Two Little Mice.
I have it as well.
Because Simone did, the Italian
organization. Yes,
okay.
So
technically, that's a game that you made, so that would break the rules of the game as well.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Well, thank you very much for that recommendation, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing Household with us. It's a game I'm really excited about, so really pleased it's been doing so well for you. And thank you to everyone that came and watched as well. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Not D&D. We'll be back next week. We live stream every Monday, and next week we have Urban Shadows we're talking about, which is a political urban fantasy role-playing game. So same time, same place. You're watching this next week if you're interested in that. But for now, we'll say goodbye. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.